Next we have Blastoise, my personal favorite and my original starter. As many people were aware, Water-type Pokemon dominated the early months of the game. With a combination of excellent moves, good offensive and defensive typing, and balanced stats, they were a very common pick. Unfortunately for Blastoise, it was on the lower end of Water-type usage. It had a lower attack stat than Lord Vaporeon, and didn't last as long. Squirtle was on the rarest side of spawns, and it cost 125 candy to get a Blastoise, while Vaporeon only cost 25. Blastoise also struggled to compete with Gyarados, who even lacked a stab fast move. Blastoise was by no means bad, it was still a decent gym attacker and defender. The Water Gun nerf affected Blastoise pretty badly though, as it now limited its damage even more. Blastoise also struggled to compete against Lapras, who was a very good gym defender that could also beat dragon types due to its ice typing. Generation 2 added a much stronger water starter in Feraligatr, whose higher attack and decent bulk made it a more popular choice over Blastoise. Lantern and Azumarill were also added, but they were both lackluster due to their lower attack stats, but were decent gym defenders due to their high HPs. Kingdra also outclassed Blastoise because of its sub-dragon typing and higher CP. By the end of Generation 2, Blastoise was already struggling to stay relevant as both an attacker and a defender due to the amount of competition and its middling stats. The worst was yet to come for Blastoise, as no one considered it as a raid attacker, as there were many multiple stronger water types who could either outdamage or outlive Blastoise. Gyarados had finally gained access to a water fast move, making it the new strongest water type attacker. Gyarados wouldn't be king for long, as Kyogre was released and it became the best water type attacker. But at least Blastoise was a better choice than Golduck and Walrein, I guess. Raids went right over Blastoise's head. Not even its water typing could help it swim. Generation 3 added an even stronger and meta-defining water starter in Swampert. An excellent typing in water and ground gives it only one weakness, and it also had a very powerful new charge move, Surf. Milotic was also added, gained Surf, and had a better defensive stats than Blastoise. Generation 3 was even worse to Blastoise than Gen 2. Our poor turtle tank. When Community Days started, Squirtle was blessed with its own day. It gained a new sunglass-wearing variant, its shiny and one of the strongest moves in the game, Hydro Cannon. Once gifted with Hydro Cannon, it could finally beat Vaporeon and Feraligatr, who were both a worse Gyarados, who was a worse Kyogre. It wasn't so bad for Blastoise now, as it was no longer a hindrance in raids, being able to beat fire, rock, and ground-type raid bosses, while being easier to amass than Kyogre and Gyarados. Trainers like myself could finally unleash a team of 6 water tanks. Blastoise's time in the sun for raids didn't last forever though, as eventually the other water starters gained Hydro Cannon from their Community Days, but at least Blastoise, for once, was a usable attacker. Blastoise was no match for the part steel water starter in Empoleon on defense. Its better defensive typing made it a better choice for leaving in gyms. Floatzel was a better attacker than Blastoise, though it lacked Hydro Cannon and it was very glassy. Palkia lacked a water fast move, so that was kinda nice for Blastoise, as it didn't compete with it. Generation 5 added Samurott, who would later outclass Blastoise as an attacker once it gained Hydro Cannon, but for once, that was the only water Pokemon who beat Blastoise in damage. However, Kingler had now gained Crabhammer, making it the new highest DPS Pokemon. That didn't last long, as Kyogre then gained access to Surf. Not like it made much of a difference to Blastoise though. For the second time this video, Blastoise became a standout pick in PvP. Being a defensive-oriented Pokemon, it had the stats and move pool to be a good option in both Great League and Ultra League. With Water Gun, Hydro Cannon, and your choice of Ice Beam, Skull Bash, or Flash Cannon, it beat the grounds, darks, steels, rocks, and fires you'd expect, even including Swampert. It remains a decent pick, but suffers from the amount of strong water types like Azumarill, the Mud Boys, and Jellicent. In Ultra League, an XL Blastoise beats what you'd expect, and even picking up wins against fighting types, most Charmers, Ghost types, not including Trevenant or both Giratinas, and Normals. It lost to other water types if it wasn't carrying Skull Bash, or it lost to Dragons if it wasn't using Ice Beam. It faced competition from Swampert, Empoleon, and Jellicent, but thanks to its great bulk and moveset, it was by no means outclassed. Blastoise doesn't have the CP to compete in Master League, losing it to all the big names. It does beat Mamoswine, both Landorus forms, and the Rock types, but most trainers will just use a Kyogre or a Palkia instead. In the limited PvP formats where Megas are allowed, Mega Blastoise is a dangerous threat, dishing and taking a lot of damage. It finally stands up to the Dragons, blasting them with Ice Beams, and nailing everything else with Hydro Cannon. Generation 6 added Greninja, who currently lacks both Hydro Cannon and its Ash Greninja form. Clauncher had Crabhammer, but it still couldn't compete with the Meta Water picks or Mega Blastoise. Shadow Blastoise is definitely a downgrade to regular Blastoise. Not being able to Mega Evolve, losing bulk, and still not being able to compete for damage. I'd stick with the regular version and save your Stardust. Well, that was interesting. Blastoise had a very slow start, but finally got the recognition it deserved when its Mega came out. I guess slow and steady really does win the race. Thank you to everyone for watching. Please subscribe and like for more.